Hey everyone, and welcome back to Planet Coaster. We will be working on the back side of the town hall this episode. The coaster was already built off camera, as I'm not really comfortable building coasters, as you guys have known, and I also have expressed that in videos before. So we've skipped the laying out of the track. It's a basic coaster. It's nothing too spectacular. It just has one airtime hill and just a few kind of weaves and turns. It's not really even meant to be even that grand. There are no coasters in Renaissance fairs. Me even having one is a little weird, but I digress. Anyways, we have the fountain going in between these two staircases out the backside. I did want to try and put some standing water in there just to see if it would look really nice or not. Didn't really work out in my favor, just due to how the water tool works. You know, I was trying to sculpt the terrain to try and make a little bowl and try and get that to work for the water, but it didn't really function how I wanted it to. So we just fill it in, and we'll end up just leaving it overgrown and dry, essentially. Inside the lion head statues, there will be fountains actually pouring out water, but no actual collection going on in the basin. Over here on the left side, we have a ruined section. The exterior wall of the Renaissance Fair has, kind of run up to this building. So what I wanted to do was get a area, and you guys have suggested to make the wall look ruined by the coaster, and on the back side, make it look like it might have split apart, maybe a crack in it of some kind. So I went ahead and that's my interpretation of your guys' suggestion. On the other side, this is the actual exit point of the station, and we're going to have kind of two sides to the coaster. We're going to have like a cemetery side with mausoleums and normal kind of headstones and things like that, and then a creepy hollow kind of vibe on the rest of the track. So this being the entryway, I wanted to build some lattice, and we're going to be able to hopefully save this as a blueprint to continue working on it, trying our best to make it function and actually sit over top the railing. But because we saved it as a blueprint, it kind of changes how the items as a whole work. Notice that I was able to build that at this level over the course initially just fine, but for some reason I can't place it now. And I was very confused at this at first because everything looked the same to me. The only thing that was different are the greenery elements on it, but really those shouldn't be causing an issue. But to get this to actually function and work, I ended up having to simply raise it up a little bit, extend the poles down so that they would actually be connected to the ground. And we're doing this lattice thing just to kind of block the view a little bit to the cemetery on the right, because that's kind of where you end up on the coaster. The rest of the beginning of the ride is more through woodlands, forest, kind of a haunted section in general. Now, the back side is a little bit different than the front of the town hall. The back side is a little bit more, I guess you could say, more like a chapel. We have some large windows here, and then instead of a kind of octagonal tower on the front, we have kind of a squared off tower on the back. And that really changes how the building looks depending on if you're on the front side or the back side. So the back side, you can kind of sell it as a chapel, thus making the cemetery make a little bit of sense. And then on the front town side, you can basically see it as a town hall. So the building has two fronts, so to say, if that makes any logical sense. We also have some upper windows here just to try and make it look a little bit more grand and overall just more impressive to the eye. The back cemetery area, we're going to be using this kind of gazebo element as a center point, and then from there we're going to make some little pathways to the sides, and we'll put little mausoleums at the end of those. So we're going to have 3 mausoleums surrounded by a small wall. Also, we'll use the gravestone elements from the previous graveyard kind of stage area to fill in some of the green space. So this whole thing looks fairly nice and detailed out. It will look relatively haunted and overgrown and partially ruined. All three of these mausoleums are slightly different from each other, which is great. Initially, we're just going to start with a very basic one with some simple columns and cornerstones here holding up the overhang. Now, I am starting to realize when I'm building a little inefficiently, so this is just a simple square building, and from the get-go I should have just started with this half and then copied it over, but I kind of realized that at this point in time. So what I'll do is end up kind of matte finishing the back half and using just the copy and paste to kind of bring that over. We're going to be using also these decorative elements to try and make some sort of some type of overhang decoration over the door, which will hopefully fit the theme as well as possible. They are the pirate elements, but it has a skull on it, so I figured might as well use that. This mausoleum is a little bit different. Obviously, it's only a 1 tile wide, so we're going to have to use half grids to get some detailing in. The roof, there's not many single tile roof options to use in this case. In fact, really the only roof option that we have is this Italian roof. Decided to use that as a base and then just kind of build my own version using some decorative pieces to get that all lined up and a little bit more gray and more in line with the theme than that yellow kind of tile. So more headstones going down and some extra decorative elements, of course, copying over the left mausoleum and then stripping it down to try and make some new wall elements. We're gonna have kind of a bulkier door here. The upper kind of roof trim decoration is just kind of this winged look due to just the half circle fantasy pieces, kind of these elven decorative blocks. And then we can use the backside of the door frame to create just arches everywhere else and hide the wood to make that look nice and clean and nice and square all the way around. So there's our 3 different mausoleums all laid out. And now we just do headstone placement. We'll do some fence placement using some blueprints that we've had before. This whole section is really starting to jive together in the sense that we kind of have enough pieces laid out that we're gonna be able to copy and paste from areas a little bit quicker. We're gonna be able to use old assets that we've used before. Obviously, you'll want to save often. And a little bit of a skip does happen here. This was kind of in multiple sessions, and we'll be, using the fences to kind of encase the side green spaces, and then using that as a base kind of starting point for the overgrown sections to make it look a little closed in with some green elements and some elements climbing up pillars and things of that nature. The new decorative kind of ironwork above the short wall here, using the ironwork from one of the signs, and then we can just bury the rest of the sign into the wall itself. That's a pretty cool effect that I've seen some people do, and went ahead and used it for myself in this part. That's my favorite thing about Planet Coaster is that, one, we all kind of inspire each other, and we also all kind of share kind of different techniques through pictures, through forum posts, through videos such as this. And I hope, my goal in making videos is simply to get you guys to think that's cool, and also hopefully help you to understand that you guys can do this stuff as well. I do get a fair amount of comments saying, hey, I wish I could build as well as you can, or I wish I was as talented as you. And, that makes me feel good, yes. But also, I've been building stuff in kind of games, and also, I have an art degree. So, obviously, I'm going to be a little bit more well versed than, say, just a person just starting out. But that shouldn't be discouraging. You guys, can get this good. You just might do it a little bit slower than, say, I can, or say like a Delay Designer or Sofarat. But I don't want you guys to be discouraged in trying to do your own stuff, because I think, I really believe that everyone has the creative potential. Look at buildings, copy them to start out, and then over time you build this visual library in your mind of what things should look like and what things might go together to build up these buildings. Because I get asked all the time as well, just like, what inspires you in essence, and then also, how do you come up with these designs? And really, it's just, I've done, mausoleum builds now, so I know how to kind of conceive what a mausoleum will look like in my mind, and then just put that down. This is the kind of wooded section of the coaster ride as I kind of finish my rant there. And you can see we're going to be doing some thick trees near the edges of the coaster, and then as it works towards the track itself, we'll be doing more of the dead trees, almost like it's cursed hollow ground here. And using some copy and paste, you're able to fill in a lot of quick green spaces. I do like thin strips of trees here, save them as a blueprint. You get 2 varieties per each blueprint because you can flip it around. So the back, of course, is going to be different from the front, and using that, you essentially have 4 kind of varieties of shrub layouts. All the detailing here is not quite done, I will admit. So we're not going to be riding the coaster today. We're not going to be doing that until probably the end of the series. I feel like I've been spoiling my coaster rides a little too early here lately, so I hope you guys are excited for the end when we get to see everything work in tandem. But also, my FPS is so low now. I'm sitting at about 15 FPS if I look towards the town from the coaster. If I look away from the town, we're at about 30 to 40 FPS. So there's a lot of little alpha issues for them to fix, whether it's draw distance in terms of if there's a building behind a building, I shouldn't be drawing that and using GPS space. I should be only drawing what I see. And I think once they add elements like that, we'll be able to get higher FPS into the game. So that's it for the speed build section of today's episode. I'm going to go ahead and try to show you some real-time stuff. Excuse the lag, but it's kind of where we're at in the alpha. Okay, so here we are in real time. You'll notice that actually right now I'm getting about 20 FPS. If I look to the left anymore, it will drop even more so. So I'm going to try and avoid that to try and make the viewing experience a little bit better. You'll notice that we have some of these random block breaks here. Now, I did this for a couple reasons. I wanted this coaster to have more than one car. And so you'll see as the coaster comes around kind of the final bend up there at the top left, making it into this little spiral, you can see the other coaster just now leaving the station. So as this one pulls in, this one's generally leaving, and we're able to keep a steady flow of people on and off the coaster. These little brakes itself, they basically act like signals in, say, if you ever played Transport Tycoon. So this block brake, if a vehicle is coming up on it and there is a vehicle within these 2, it will stop here. As soon as the vehicle passes this block brake, this one will then pull up. So I have to have kind of multiple at the start, just due to how the coaster begins. They're so close together that it's actually inefficient. So I have a few checkpoints along the ride itself, and then it uses that to kind of get the spacing generally right. You can see the second coaster that just left coming around and pulling into this break here, and then the other one should be leaving now. I think I just heard the brakes release. Yes, it's right there going up and out as this one comes in. So I think that's a really cool feature. If you had 3 cars, you would need more brakes in between. That's just how that generally works. But let's go ahead over here so you guys can see some of the detailing. I'm going to pause the game for hopes of a little bit more FPS. And we got definitely some creepy elements back here in the graveyard. Now, kind of my main inspiration for this would be, say, if you guys ever played World of Warcraft, there is the graveyard side of Scarlet Monastery. So I was kind of thinking about that, how we have this main central road. There are a few left and right mausoleums that you might go into, and then the main back mausoleum, which has the main boss of the dungeon in the basement there. So that was kind of what I was thinking of when I was making here. This gazebo, of course, isn't in World of Warcraft, I don't think. I think it's a fountain in the middle there, but that's definitely a big inspiration for me, you know, playing other games and then using that as a reference point, or looking at images online as a reference point, going back to what I was talking about in the speed build. It's very helpful in general. So let's look at some of the details a little bit more up close. Here is the left little mausoleum here with some vines growing up that pillar, plenty of broken little wooden pieces, some vines, things like that. I do occasionally pop in a red tree or this pink kind of shrubbery here, just for a touch of color among the dead and brown elements. That way it's not too boring looking. We got this kind of nautical design up here, which looks pretty cool. Maybe this is a pirate's tomb. Who knows what's in there? That's definitely the large structure. And if we zoom out, you can see the lattice for kind of the coaster station. And then down here, this is kind of the creepy hollow section of the ride. It's not 100% detailed out yet. I do want to move on, really start wrapping up the haunted section of the park. So I'm not going to be doing this section on camera. I also want to save a little bit of FPS, so I'm not going to take this to 100% detail until maybe a bit later. But the main detail element down here is simply the witch's hut, a wagon. We got some rocks, overgrown elements, more vines, some exposed rocks. There's a lot of stuff that you can use to really bring out detail here. But in the time being, this is currently where we are. Now, there is something that I do need from you guys this episode. I don't know what color to do the track and car for our coaster. So if you guys can let me know down below what color you want, say, the track elements, the column elements, and what other elements are on this thing. We got 4 elements here for the track, probably rails, the main beam itself, the column, and probably the lift chain kind of path there. And then we have 4 elements for the car, which has red, white, black on it currently. But you guys go ahead, let me know down below what you would like that to look like in the future. So finally, we're going to end the episode over here as my FPS tanks, just so you guys can see kind of the backside. You can definitely tell our FPS is half from the start of the episode, and it looks really nice. If we would actually be able to function computer-wise, it would look even nicer. But I think it has a good commanding presence of space. The trees really kind of box it in and keep it kind of self-contained, which is really nice about surrounding your coasters with a lot of greenery. From a distance, we're going to get a really nice kind of zoned in section here, and it keeps it a little bit separated from the rest of the park, and that's something that I wanted. Also, something to keep in mind when I was laying out these trees here, I didn't want them to cover up certain high points of the railing, so you can see the trees kind of drop off in the middle here and sag down, so people from down below can still see the coaster running. And I think that's kind of a nice feature to have, say, coming up this path to the town hall itself. You can see parts of the track exposed. Now, because we have 2 coaster cars going, another nice kind of benefit from that is we've always had this short queue here, but right now we're only at a 3-minute queue to get onto the ride, and that's just because we have a quick turnover rate between cars, and elements like that. As a car is pulling out, a car is pulling in. So that's doubling our turnover for this coaster and keeping people a lot more excited. Our current guest population is 2,600. So this park's going to get pretty full pretty quick when we start working on the backside. Anyways, that's going to be us for this episode of Planet Coaster. Thank you guys so much for watching and stopping by. Go ahead and leave a comment on what you guys think, would like to change, add to our wonderful Renaissance Fair. Go ahead and subscribe if you're new. Hit that like button so I know you guys enjoy this kind of stuff. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next episode.